River.
Excellent bunch of people around that are working on this problem.
We have the very latest on Saturday's train derailment as crews work hard to get it all cleaned up. That derailment leading to some questions over rail safety.
You know, I think the number of derailments we're seeing across the country are probably an indication of the need to invest in rail infrastructure.
We'll dive into the infrastructure of Montana's tracks and letters to lawmakers.
Picked up my mail and knew right away that that letter was suspicious.
Montana Republicans, including a Billings representative, voicing concerns after receiving threatening packages. The MTN News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Andrea Lutz. We do have the latest tonight on the train derailment and bridge collapse into the Yellowstone River near Reed Point. Well, no cause has been determined quite yet. Tonight, Montana Rail Link officials say they're confident in the integrity of their bridge, and it's been tested multiple times a year. The Yellowstone River is, of course, the source of drinking water for several cities downstream of that derailment. Montana Rail Link train derailed Saturday morning, but no injuries reported. Well, tonight during a press conference on Zoom, I asked the Unified Command why the rail bridge wasn't removed when the road bridge of the Twin Bridges was removed by MDT 2 years ago for fear it would collapse.
Know that we feel confident that this bridge was suitable for stream flows, like I said, inspected multiple times per year. And we do invest pretty heavily in our capital infrastructure, and this bridge was no exception to that.
Well, MRL says as many as 17 trains pass over that bridge a day and that they meet and exceed federal standards for bridges. The bridge collapse will interrupt rail service, we're told. Trains will be diverted from Laurel to Great Falls. With 8 of those rail cars removed from the river, crews are making significant progress tonight on the site of that derailment. Tonight, our Haley Monaco caught up with one of the restaurants, making sure the cleanup crews stay fed.
It's been 3 days since 17 train cars derailed and a bridge collapsed into the Yellowstone River. You can see that progress is being made on cleanup as train cars have already been removed from the rails.
Tragic, concerned. You know, first off, want to make sure no one was injured or killed or anything.
News spread across the country Saturday morning after a coal train was thrown into the Yellowstone River, and it's hit residents of tiny Reed Point hard.
The nature and wildlife and the impact it's going to have on it because of, well, a train dumping into the river.
Jerry Bixel owns the Waterhole Saloon and Steakhouse in Reed Point, just down the road from the derailment.
We're proud to have such a excellent bunch of people around that are working on this problem.
The video playing now is from Saturday, shortly after the derailment. Now compare that to this video from Monday. 10 cars remain in the water, 2 of which are fully submerged. That's the focus of a joint statement Monday from Montana Rail Link and government agencies, saying, quote, the condition of these cars, including the 2 that are submerged, is a key unknown in the plan to remove them from the water. A dive team has arrived on scene to gather more information about the situation below the surface. Meanwhile, the waterhole has been a place many of the people working to clean up the derailment stop for lunch and dinner.
It was one of our best Saturday nights so far, or Saturday day and night so far.
They tend to come in about 5 to 20 apiece.
A small town joint feeding crews working to fix a big time incident.
This is a huge impact to not just the community, but the whole region and state. And I'd just like everybody to just, have patience. We'll get through this.
In Stillwater County, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
This is just the latest train derailment to make big news across America this year, with all of those incidents spurring some conversations about the safety of our tracks. Our Charlie Kleps takes a closer look at the state of bridge infrastructure in Montana.
There's still a lot of unanswered questions surrounding Saturday's train derailment, including why and how it happened. Many are now curious if Montana's rail infrastructure as a whole needs improvements.
This could have been a very, very tragic thing.
Montana U.S. Representative Matt Rosendale was shocked by images from Saturday's derailment, and they now have his attention.
And now that we are seeing failures like this, and it gives me great concern.
He's not alone. In the 3 days since the accident, many Montanans have questioned the state's bridge system.
We have a lot of infrastructure needs, and we need to make sure that we focus our attention on doing just that.
All of our road and bridge infrastructure in Montana is aging, and it's just a good wake-up call to say we better make sure we're staying on top of this stuff.
Daryl James is the director of the Montana Infrastructure Coalition. While they focus primarily on roads, James says that Montana's railway system could use serious updates.
This generation didn't build this infrastructure. It was built post-World War II. And we've not significantly invested in our transportation infrastructure across the country.
Montana isn't alone. Many remember 38 cars that derailed near East Palestine in Ohio earlier this year.
I think the number of derailments we're seeing across the country are probably an indication of the need to invest in rail infrastructure.
Rosendale told MTN that the Montana Rail Link president confirmed to him the structure of the bridge had been checked and modified just last year, which is a big reason why the disaster on Saturday is such a surprise, and one that many fear could turn into a bigger problem across the state.
But I think that we have to keep continuous vigilance in inspecting and monitoring our infrastructure, because that is the role of the federal government, to make sure that we can have commerce between the states.
In Billings, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
We're going to start off with our Doppler radar here and show you the areas where we've been getting some heavy rain all across the area. Here's Billings, and everything seems to be just going around us, particularly some heavier rain here through northern Yellowstone County. Check out some of these rain numbers here from around Roundup. Picked up over 2 inches in a very short period of time. And you can see also around the Rygate area where the rain really coming down, Golden Valley County. Also some stronger storms now starting to approach you in Forsyth. You can see the bow here where that's pushing over some areas where we already have some issues with flooding, and also as we start looking off into southeastern Montana, some strong thunderstorms here and plenty of lightning. We've got some pictures to show you and the complete forecast in a few minutes.
It is a miracle that nobody died. That's how emergency management officials are describing the aftermath of a tornado that ripped through the North Antelope Rochelle coal mine. 7 mine workers were taken to local hospitals with injuries, and David King has been doing emergency disaster response for Campbell County for 26 years. He says the scene after that twister hit was quite incredible. He says metal was flying around and the workers miraculously survived. The tornado hit Friday evening with only minutes of notice for those working at the mine. King says they know now it was an EF2 category storm.
Empty coal cars are like an empty cardboard box that are easily moved around. And there was a number of them that literally were just tipped over on the tracks. And of course, they're all connected, so it tips over a whole string. Interestingly enough, some of them on the mine site, some tipped one way, some tipped the other. And was that the center, the eye of the hurricane as it was going over, so that the winds were going opposite directions? I don't know.
King tells me, to make matters worse, the tornado happened during a shift change, so there were more people susceptible to that storm. He says they fully expected to have a mass casualty situation. New tonight, the city is asking for funding to get safe routes for schools. It is an issue we've reported after numerous collisions with children and cars on their way to school. Billings leaders are hoping a grant to focus on improving routes along our community's areas where injuries are high will help. Back in October, a boy thrown about 50 feet after he was hit on his bicycle at the intersection of Lyman and Brentwood. And then another concern is up in the Heights, where a child was struck by a car in 2022 right there on Lake Elmo Drive. In all, the grants package would be as much as $4.5 million with a 20% match from the city. Tonight, the City Council voted to approve the grant application. Today, a 4th Montana lawmaker received a threatening letter, this one being Montana House Majority Leader Sue Vinton from Billings. She immediately turned that letter over to law enforcement, and the substance inside turned out to be flour. But as our David J. reports tonight, she's sounding the alarm over this ongoing issue.
Representative Sue Vinton picked up her mail at the post office and took the suspicious letter and drove here to the Yellowstone County Sheriff's Office. The Billings Fire Department hazmat team was called and determined that the white powder substance was not hazardous. House Majority Leader Sue Vinton received a letter with a Kansas City postmark and a Billings return address, similar to what was sent to the other 3 legislators.
Mine was a Billings address, not in my district, but it was a Billings address and zip code, and the others had their own addresses and zip codes from their districts as well.
Vinton says while she was in Helena, she received 550 emails, some with death threats. And for the last 2 weeks of the session, the Montana Highway Patrol provided police protection to House leadership.
We received many emails, phone calls and voicemails, and some letters. So we're used to, getting communication from people that we know and people that we don't know. This is the first time I've heard of something like this taking place.
The others are also part of the House Republican leadership. House Speaker Matt Regier received a letter at the Capitol. Letters were sent to home addresses of Majority Whip Neil Durham and Speaker Pro Tem Rhonda Knudsen. Knudsen's son is Attorney General Austin Knudsen, who posted on Facebook warning legislators to be cautious not to open one of these letters and advising them to contact law enforcement.
I would say to be vigilant. Be careful and take things seriously. I know our first reaction is to say, oh, it's probably nothing. And thankfully, it wasn't anything serious.
The Kansas Bureau of Investigation has turned its cases of 100 similar letters over to the FBI. In Montana, while the letters went to Republicans, Vinton says a concern has been bipartisan.
Obviously, I've heard from members of my own caucus, but I did have one Democrat senator that reached out to me to show her concern, and I was very appreciative of that.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
Still ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news on Q2, laser focus. Unique technology is helping Yellowstone National Park officials on the roads to recovery. We'll explain. And later, staying on tune. We'll catch up with our latest super senior as he continues to share his love for music. That story in just a bit.
The MTN 10 o'clock news continues right after this. From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
After more than a year of being closed, Yellowstone National Park's Mammoth Hot Springs Hotel will open on July 1st. Of course, the hotel closed after the historic June floods of last year because of damage to the area's wastewater system. A new wastewater treatment system has now been built and it's operational. The Mammoth Campground hopes to open soon, but will need to wait until it's connected to the new system. All tours departing from the Mammoth Hotel will begin on the 1st, and the restaurant will begin serving breakfast on July 2nd. Yellowstone scientists are using a unique tool to help reconstruct the highways demolished by last year's floods. It's called LIDAR, using a laser to let them clearly see the land surface under the trees, water, and other ground cover. Park geologist Dr. Jefferson Hungerford says the park first used the technology in 2020, surveying all 2.2 million acres of the park. He says that a receiver measures the time it takes for the pulse of light to bounce back and then uses that information to reveal the topography beneath the ground cover. Hungerford says the 2020 survey produced a baseline map, which is helpful in determining the impact of floods.
We can go ahead and fly LIDAR again over those areas. It will quickly tell us how much of that bank did we lose during the flood event? Where did we move that channel to? Where did we erode away?
The surveys will help engineers plan the reconstruction of the road all the way to the northeast entrance and prepare, of course, for future floods. Ed joining us now for a look outside at the weather, and there's a lot of action out there.
Yeah, it started earlier in the evening, Andrea, over into the eastern plains. This was around Terry. That's all hail that's on the ground, and then water on I-94 right in between the two lanes going east and west there. Kathleen shared this one, said it was about a ½ inch of moisture at about 15 minutes time. And one last one, you can see the rain out from Miles City there. I don't know if I'd want to be going that way or not.
Yikes.
Yeah. There's more thunderstorms in the forecast for tomorrow. We'll talk about it when we come back.
The MTN 10 o'clock news continues right after this.